this is the summary for the day of 710 to 711 for the 3rd to the 4th of February. And let's go into the conclusions. Conclusion, we're going to start off, of course, with the most important developments is over at the Avdiivka front. So Avdiivka city. So in the northern part of the Avdiivka front, let's go into a bit more details about the situation over here. I mentioned previously, after the Russians' success in this area here, as they push through this Dacha region or the summer houses region and push into the first street, like I mentioned, this area here is really short, and this, once the Russians are able to close it up, then the Ukrainians will not be able to penetrate through to reinforce and resupply. And in fact, even with this gap open, it's going to be very dangerous for them to resupply, and the only way will be have to go around, and this is going to be disastrous also, because this is very open grounds around here, so they can be also taken out in this area here. So with Russians knowing this clearly, because they are the real soldiers that are currently fighting in this war, they clearly know the strategic situation better than me. They definitely putting pressure on the Ukrainians, and the Ukrainians, knowing the weakness of their positions, have seemingly decided to abandon position and totally leave this entire area where they are under threat of encirclement. So this is probably what happened, which is why we saw the collapse so quickly. And it's also very hard to defend, because this is basically just 2 tree lines. So these 2 tree lines and another tree line along the roads around here, this is just too little for the Ukrainians to hold the line. They are too easily able to be pincered in the rear position and get themselves encircled in this area here. So yeah, withdrawal is actually the correct thing to do. Under such circumstances, there's just no way they can hold this position. So most likely, they left is either through both. I think it's from both ways, because the gap here wasn't closed yet, I guess, at the time. So they definitely is going to withdraw into more defendable lines. And I believe the next line of defense, of course, is along these streets, along these buildings, particularly the more built up suburbs, and of course along this edge of this this lake over here. Then the Russians also have expanded their control around this small little neighborhood southwest of Kayamka. So this area here, the Russians are also has expanded their control. So I'm expecting that the Russians is going to push very hard in this direction. From now on, I believe they're going to push very hard to close up this entire area and not let the Ukrainian forces breathe and entrench themselves. It's going to be not so nice. If I go into Google Earth, you probably will be able to see the geography better. So in this area here, there is high grounds for the Ukrainians. You can see this area here is high grounds. So this is where the Ukrainians is going to make their stand. So oh, sorry, it's so laggy. Okay, so this is where they're going to make their stand, and so the Ukrainians is going to hold this position and along this ridge line, and this is where they're going to hold the position. Then they were going to hold along this more built up suburb region here, and this is where they're going to hold the line. The Russians are going to push really hard from in this area here. This area, this Dacha region, this suburb is gone for sure. So is this one, because if the Ukrainian claims are correct and the Ukrainian lines are here, it's not going to hold. They are going to withdraw as well, because this is just not a good place to be in, especially with the Russian forces now pushing southward from the Vasily region, or from the northern part of this lake, pushing downwards. They're going to get encircled or cut off from the reinforcement and resupply. So even if they are positioned here, they'll have to withdraw towards this more defendable line along the ridge line and the hill. So again, I want to come down a bit more. You probably see it better. You can see the Ukrainians will hold the positions along this ridge and this hill. This ridge and this hill. So this is where they're going to hold the line. So the Russians are advance in this area is going to be very visible in all directions. So this is not going to be a difficult, this is not going to be an easy way for the Russians to attack, but I believe they will want to challenge the Ukrainians into it. But clearly the Russians have advantage in terms of artillery as well as air superiority. So they're going to bombard this area here until the Ukrainians don't even dare to stay there, and that's when they will try to push through and close up the entire gap. It's going to be challenging for sure. Many Russians are going to die, but so are the defenders are going to be at risk of bombardment. And so this covered this part. Now I want to, is this northern part that is actually even more interesting. So this came as a little bit of a surprise to me. The Russian forces penetrate through this forest region and entered from the north of this neighborhood. Previously the Russians are attacking from this area here, so now they are actually attacking through the forest, and they're going to fight through this area here in a very surprising fashion. But this is not the weak spot. The weak spot is actually the main road. So this is the only road, as you can see, this road along Lashtokine, this is the only road to Avdiivka, the only proper road to Avdiivka. And you can see how far is this location. We are talking about, from the front line is around 1 kilometer. This is basically the distance between Russians reaching that lifeline, that one road. And the Russians don't even need to reach the road. They can just go half a kilometer with around 500 meters. That's sufficient range for the Russians to launch anti-tank guided missiles. And if they go through a little bit more, another 200 to 300 meters, between 200 to 400 meters is effective range of rifles. It's going to be disastrous for the Ukrainians. So the more natural, if the Russians really want to encircle the Ukrainian forces, I think the natural thing to do is to go in this direction towards the south of the Koplan and create a kind of blockade against the Ukrainians from redrawing and using this road. So the idea is to cut off this road. So let me draw it in blue, cut off this road. That's the plan. So this area here will be the killer blow if the Russians are able to do it. And the question will be, would the Russians want to do it? Because we have seen many times, including several the battle at Severodonetsk and Lysychansk, and also the battle at Bakhmut, the Russians always leave a place for a road or so for the Ukrainians to withdraw, and they never really want to try to encircle the Ukrainian forces. So this, except for Mariupol is the only one that they really encircle. So will the Russians really want to encircle, or will they give them a leaving road? I'm not sure. But the natural thing for, I think, anyone who is a military or war enthusiast, if we like war stuff, this is the natural thing to do. While the Russians are already pushing in this area here, you can close up the gap, force the Ukrainians to hold that line around this area, which means that they need to send reinforcement in this direction, and they also need to hold this line around here. But then the resupply can only come in this direction. Oh my god, you can see how disastrous the situation is going to be. The roads around, these dirt roads along the tree lines are shot through. These are all not very, very usable roads. FPV drones are flying all over this place. The Russians are having a lot of control around this area here just through FPV drones. So the situation is just disastrous. I predict the Ukrainians are going to withdraw away from the filtration plant. I don't think they will want to hold this position anymore. They're going to hold it along this southern part of the. Let me withdraw. They're going to withdraw, hold the front around here, around the southern part, and of course they're going to hold it along the high buildings at Khimik region or the Nice district, and of course along this ridge line, and hope for the best, and basically push their forces, their reserve, to plug this hole that is developing. The Ukrainian forces that are positioning at the coke plant is going to sit there and do nothing. The Russians are going to go around it. They are not going to penetrate into the coke plant unless they see that the Ukrainians have withdrawn from that plant, and then they will try to seize it. If not, tentatively, I don't think the Russians want to push it, because the entire strategic situation is just way too, advantageous for the Russian side. So this is the this is the a lot of arrow situation I want to talk about in Avdiivka. So otherwise, some other things, let's go by sequence. Over the Kupiansk front, Russian forces continue to push at Ivanivka. Is interesting to me. The battle of Sinkivka is getting very boring. So we shall watch to see what the Russians are up to at Ivanivka. Will we have another sudden info drop that suddenly the Russians capture a lot of grounds? I do not know. Crimea, is a usual stuff, nothing to talk about. The severe situation, previous last mentioned analysis was that the Russians is pushing from the Bilohorivka region towards and try to capture the high ground north of Vasily. Not sure if it's still happening. We shall continue to monitor. Like always, fighting for the high ground is going to be always difficult. Bakhmut front is also getting very stale. It's just a lot of assets are getting deployed in this area here. We shall watch and see. And New York front, this probing attack is nothing worth talking about. Avdiivka we covered. Like previous I've mentioned, this is a very interesting way to reach the road. By right, there is actually this outer pincer that was developing, which didn't work out. Now they went through the inside, despite there was this area, this fighting, this biting down of the Avdiivka. Yeah, let's watch and see. This is fascinating to me. I think this is going to be in the history books, in the war books. That people will be looking at the strategies and the entire developments of this battle of Avdiivka, in years to come. So otherwise, the rest of the situation remains nothing special. Voleda attack is interesting. We shall wait and see if this develops into anything. Zoleta Neva continues. You can watch the previous conclusion. I've talked a bit more about this, the importance of Zoleta Neva. And so the rest is more or less the same thing. It's interesting about this battle at Nesterianka in the Zaporizhia front and towards Shcherbaky. This, just for the Russians to cut off this road, means that the Ukrainians will have to go one big round just to link up Orikhiv and the Kayamsky sector. So let's say Russians take Shcherbaky and maybe cut off the road near Novoandriivka. The Ukrainians over at Kayamsky sector will have to go from Orikhiv over here. They have to link all the way up and able to reach down here or go to Kayamsky. Is one hell of a big round just by cutting off this road. So this is the significance of this front line. This attack over here, this is a weak spot. If the Russians take it, the Ukrainians will just have to extend their logistics. Not ideal. And of course, Krinky continues to be a thing. I'm not sure for how long. I think at this rate, I don't think not much longer. I think they have already retreated by too much troops over there. So anyway, this is the conclusions. Thank you for watching. Do press the like button, subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next update. If you want to watch the full uninterrupted SITREP, all the way from the frontline changes to the strategic tactical report to the conclusions, all in one video with no advertisement, do support DPA on Patreon, Locals, Boosty, YouTube membership, and Coffee. Become a DPA Sergeant, Officer, and General, and you'll get access to a totally uninterrupted and no ads SITREP.